Welcome, everyone. We are here at Social Talk Live, where we look a little crazy, but we talk about serious marketing things, right? It's Friday afternoon. We're letting a little loose. This is actually kind of the most favorite part of my week, really. Hi, Lisa. I know. Isn't it great? I'm loving it. The wig is awesome. So very cool. So today we are going to be talking about what systems to use for webinars and video content. We're going to be sharing mostly everything that we have personally experienced. You know, we're not going to give you a huge list of things of all these 500 tools to try or whatever. This is going to be stuff that we have personally used, that we like, where we have a system around it. So that's what we're talking about today. And so the first 30 minutes, we talk about, we share content, we share our thoughts, and we answer questions. And then the last 15 minutes, we open it up for your discussion. Feel free to hop on. We'll open up the seats. And as always, hats and wigs are welcome, but not required.
Clothing
is required. Yeah, one of the caveats there. So welcome everyone. So where do we want to start? One of the things we're going to kind of talk about is really just talking about, you know, different live webinars, and then also talking about hosted content where you might be delivering a course, you might be delivering training via video. So video content, how you host that.
Yeah, because there's a lot of things you have to think about before we start getting into the systems. There's a bunch of questions you have to ask yourself. And that's one of like the basic ones is, are you delivering this content live, or are you delivering it as a recorded piece of content? And once you have that figured out, there's a different set of tools that we would recommend. So I'm just kind of curious, the people that are here right now, do you do both? Do you need both? Do you need one or the other? I mean, where are you in your situation? Because sometimes that helps us figure out what to tell you first.
And actually, I'm going to go, so courses, I'm going to actually share some. Can I share my whole list of considerations? Is that okay?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, we can talk about all these considerations, because there are things you have to think about before you jump into a system. Really, you do.
Yeah. So I'm going to just list these out here and put these into, we kind of, so some of the things you need to consider for those people who are listening in, because you can't always see all the chat stuff, but live or recorded content is one of the first things. Number two thing you need to consider is the number of seats you need if it is like a live webinar type system, and the number of hosts you might need. Right. So, you know, that would be for live only. And the other thing you might want to consider is, do you want the email opt-in? Because some of these things you might, you know, like a Blab doesn't give you the email opt-in for the people who sign up and kind of watch the show.
But there is a way around that. There is a sneaky way around that. Now, we know that Blab has a beta system for private Blabs now. So you could actually promote a Blab to a registration page. And for those of you who go back a while, this is exactly the same process that we used for G+ Hangouts. Because G+ Hangouts were open and, you know, all of this, they had to devise a way to get that email opt-in. And so you send people to a registration page, and then the people who sign up, they get that private beta link. Okay, so you can use it that way. You just have to have an extra step in the middle.
Yeah. So exactly. You could have your own system set up where you get the email opt-in and then you send them the link, but that wouldn't be if you were just using the like Blab by itself.
Right. And that goes for, we might as well talk about G Plus, because G Plus is in that same category, is that you can have private G Plus Hangouts, and you can have a registration page and then send those people the G Plus Hangout link. That's totally a doable thing. And you can also, one of the systems we're going to talk about today uses G Plus Hangouts inside of their webinar system, because one of the things that Andrea just typed in here is what kind of reminders you need to go out. And you have to, the kind of like the sub question for that is, how much do you want to recreate the wheel here? Because there are some systems that have it, send this out an hour before, send this out 10 minutes before, send this out an hour afterwards. You just type in your info and you're done. Other systems, you would have to create those as autoresponders inside your email list. So how manual do you want this process to be?
Right, exactly. So let's cover some of the other things that I just typed in. So, some of the things to consider when choosing a system is, like we said, if you're just joining us, is if you're going to have live or recorded content, how does that fit in for you? If the number of seats you need and or number of hosts. So, if you're having a small webinar or a private class, you might be fine with some of these systems, and a lot of them are fairly inexpensive for a small number of seats. If you want a kind of a larger webinar that is going to be more for like list growth, where you're going to try and get 100 people signed up or 1,000 people signed up or whatever that might be, then you're going to need to consider the pricing and how that's going to be delivered. And the bigger your webinar, the bigger the bigger thing you're going to deliver, you may want to also make sure that you're getting that email opt-in and you have some proper reminders, so that when people are doing that webinar, they're getting on live, and you're getting to, if you're going to sell something at the end of that webinar, you want people to be there live.
Right. And just as a reminder to the new people who just joined on, we do this in wigs and hats every week.
Yeah.
Just so you understand the props for today, and they're different every week until we run out of wigs and hats, and then we go shopping. So there we go for that. So those are some of the questions that you have. Now, the next question you have to ask yourself before you go shopping for your webinar system is, do you need to screen share or have a presentation like a Google presentation or a PowerPoint presentation, or do you just need to be on screen? So you have to think that through first and figure out what you need, and that also determines what type of system that you use.
Yep, for sure. Awesome.
Kind of curious with the people that are here, when you do, let's just say, any type of webinar, do you prefer on screen or presentation, outward facing or inward facing for your presentation? Just kind of curious how everybody does that.
Yeah.
Presentation style.
I know. I think a lot of people shy away from the little live video. And, we actually, I was at Social Media Marketing World last week, and we were talking about how live video and Facebook Live and Snapchat and all these things are becoming so much more ingrained, so much a lot of focus going into 2016. And I actually really think that even though it's scary, and especially scary when you're wearing a wig like this, it really does help connect you to people. And so I think that, consider live video. It doesn't have to be perfect. What you need with a live video like this is good lighting and good sound.
Yeah. It's interesting. I just thought of a system that we didn't put on our list, but they have, and when we get to that part, I'll tell you what it is. But they have this thing where the video is in a circle that can dynamically bounce around the screen. So if you have an audience that wants to see you, but they're a little less concerned about the seriousness of your presentation, you can use something like that and make it kind of fun for them.
Yeah. All right, so let's dive into some of the systems we're going to talk about.
Is it in your face? Is it?
So I'm just going to start with the system that I have been using for years. I've tested a lot of different webinar systems. I've been on a lot of different webinar systems, and this is the one I come back to all the time is GoToWebinar. It's tried, it's true, it's dependable. It doesn't have a lot of tech issues that come in. So one of the things that's happening is that it is kind of expensive unless you are having, if you're using it to really grow your list and have, hundreds of people on it. But I think it's worth it. So for me, it's GoToWebinar. It's just because it's so dependable, and that starts at $89 per month for up to 100 attendees, and then it jumps up. If you're going to go over that, it goes up to 500. Now, one of the things about GoToWebinar is that you can have lots more registrations than actual attendees. So one of the things that you might want to also consider is you might have 500 signups, but only 100 attendees. And then you can stay at that 100 person limit. And it's okay sometimes if you go over, people might get shut out. I've noticed actually that they kind of let in a few more people. One time I was at the 100 attendee limit, and they let in a few more people on my plan. So that was kind of nice. But what I'm finding is that a lot of people aren't attending webinars live if they know that it's going to be recorded. So they're waiting, and they might sign up for the webinar, but just listen into the recording.
Yeah. And the other thing too is that, we've had a really long history with, GoToWebinar. I remember when it first came out. Oh, I'm so freaking old. I remember when it first came out, and the technology of the recording of the video and being able to upload it had not really reached the sophistication it is now. And so in my history, have a real fear about using GoToWebinar because of my history with it. So, we both have different feelings about it, yet this is the main one that we use for our school. This is the one that we use every time because Andrea's got this system, and it works, and it's reliable, and it already has chat, and it already has the question box, and it already has all the little things. Now, some people are mentioning other systems in the chat, and if you go and look at those, to have chat, you have to add on a different thing. If you want questions, you have to add on a different thing. You have to build those pieces. So it might be a third of the cost of Webinar Jam, or even, a fourth of the cost, but it doesn't have all the bells and whistles that GoToWebinar has.
And the other thing too to consider is reliability. So I had a friend who signed up for a webinar plugin, a WordPress plugin that did webinars. People couldn't log in. They were, it kept crashing. The system wasn't tested. It was pretty new. And the result was that people were angry. They were frustrated. They couldn't get in at the time they wanted to. And not to say that those kinds of things don't always happen. Sometimes people don't have the right bandwidth on their internet, and so they're all mad because the sound is crappy. I'm like, well, it's because you're on some sort of dial-up, Is
there dial-up anymore? I don't think that even exists anymore. Oh my God.
Yeah. So occasionally, things do not work right, and so you have to balance that and test these before you're going to have your big event. So some of these systems, like Sophia's mentioning Webinar Alley, and one of the other things that we're going to mention is Webinar Jam that we have used. Those use Google Hangouts as the platform, and then they run where they have a little more ease of use than Google Hangouts. Sometimes I find that Google Hangouts is challenging for some people. They're not sure where to go. The link is weird, and they're in some different place. So some of these systems use Google Hangouts and make that actually easier to use. But
yeah, see, I use Webinar Jam exclusively for my time management program. That's the way I do all of my webinars. It's the way I do all of my individual products outside of the school. And I've never had anything go wrong. I'm finding all the pieces of wood I can knock on right now. But and it has built into it, it has those email autoresponders that are totally customizable. It has it saves it automatically. I can set up the page as an evergreen email capture system. So I can set up all my social to, go to it all the time. So for me, again, I've never had a problem with Webinar Jam. Love it. I got in at a really good price. Right now, I think they're full up retail for the Webinar Jam is like $397 yearly, I think. So that's definitely a big expense. Now, when I got in, it wasn't that, and so I'm thankful that I did that, because I would have to think really hard now. Okay, how much do I make? How many webinars do I do? What's my ROI on my webinars so that I can justify those kinds of expenses?
Right. So yeah, I mean, so something to consider is that GoToWebinar is fairly expensive. You're going to keep using it. It's, $89 a month. Webinar Jam is a one-time yearly fee, so, or yearly, it's a yearly fee of $397. So that's less expensive. Mm-hmm. And then some of these other systems are but I think we have some problems when we were getting up to a high number of participants in Webinar Jam. I can't remember if there was something going on.
Not that I remember. But we haven't used Webinar Jam for the school in a long time.
Yeah.
Whereas I just did a Timeless webinar for 2016 that was perfect, not a hitch, and so it's brilliant that way. So that's two biggies there. So let's go into the next one. Now, it's sort of like the direct competitor with Webinar Jam is Easy Webinar, and Easy Webinar is basically the same thing, except that it's supposed to be easier. But that's also at $397. It's the same price. But it has all the same bells and whistles. It's just prepackaged basically. And I personally have not used Easy Webinar, but I do know there are a lot of people who have. So if you have, put your experience of it in the chat so we'll know.
And actually, Lisa's mentioning that she had a hard time figuring out Webinar Jam. So,
I've used it for a really long time. So to me, it's like, it's easy, but I did in the beginning. You have to learn the system. Yeah.
Right.
You definitely.
Yeah. And a couple other competitors I'll just mention to GoToWebinar are Adobe and, oh my God, I can't believe I just blanked out. Adobe and Meet. It begins with an M. I'll think of it. It's, but those are more like traditional webinar platforms that have their own systems. Easy Webinar and Webinar Jam use Google Hangouts as their system. Another system that uses Google Hangouts that we want to mention is 22 Social. And that's Sophia just mentioned that as well. So that is definitely another.
Now, 22 Social is interesting because of where it shows up. For you, and it's really, really an interesting, very interesting piece of technology, honestly. Yeah. Now, the interesting thing about that is that they have 3 levels of pricing too. So it's $29 a month for one Facebook page. Now, it's all integrated with Facebook, so you have to think about it that way. But, they've got all sorts of stuff that you can do with it. I mean, it's really quite, the features on it are really nice. You can lead gate it so that you can capture email addresses on it. You can do set up referral tracking, so affiliate tracking for things. You've got integrations with other programs. I mean, it's really very nice. But if you're working this as almost like at an agency level and you have like 5 fan pages, it's $150 a month. It's $149 a month. And you can have people pay to watch the webinars. So if you're, because it has a PayPal integration. So that's the one thing with GoToWebinar is, I don't know. Do they have a PayPal integration? Can we set up paid webinars through GoToWebinar?
I mean, no, but what we do with that, I mean, really, I use GoToWebinar for some of my paid programs, but what I do is I have a shopping cart checkout, and then as soon as they buy, then they get the link to the webinar setup, and so often what I'm doing is like a series of 3 webinars, and then it's a paid product, and then they get an email with, hey, go sign up, but there'll also be recordings, things like that.
Well, that also brings up the second point, is that one of the nice features about some of these systems is that you can be in the middle of your presentation and the buy button shows up. So it can be timed or turned on. So the nice thing about Webinar Jam is that you can time it or turn it on. And so that's also for 22 Social, it looks like, where you can time or turn it on. And so if you want that feature, if part of your business in your webinar is to pitch a product and then have them have the ability to buy it hidden until you make the offer, then that also determines which system you're going to use.
Right. Am I really quiet? What's going on? I don't feel quiet. I feel like I'm loud. Janet's saying I'm quiet here, so I'll talk right into the microphone.
Andrea's never quiet. She's not quiet.
I know.
Especially when she's got a wig on like that, huh? She's like...
I know. Okay, so let's talk about so these are the systems that are, I mean, there's a lot of, I was going to do a spreadsheet that compared all the different systems and platforms, but it quickly got out of control for me because there's all different levels, there's all different features that they have, and like I said, some of this is just running them through that criteria. I'm going to just post that
first
again,
criteria,
just to review.
Yeah. So the first criteria is that first fork in the road. Are you doing this as a live event or a recorded event? That will make a difference on which system you use. And then after that, you have to think about the number of seats you need, how many hosts that you need. Do you want the email process to be pretty much set up for you where you just fill in the blank, or do you want to just go and recreate it inside your own email system?
Right.
And then do you need to be able to screen share, or do you need to be on screen? You need to figure those things out first, and then it will determine the number of systems that you have to choose from, basically.
Yeah. Right. So now let's talk about some of the other systems that are really more live streaming, like Blab here. And one of the things that's cool about Blab is that you can easily upload that right over to YouTube. So you've got the recording here available. And it's one to many, so you can have many people watching. Other systems that are like that would be Google Hangouts, that are still out there. People are still using them, and some of the systems have more structure, like the Easy Webinars, but Google Hangouts is free.
Yeah, so I'm surprised that you didn't put one of them before Google Hangouts, because this is something that is kind of rocking the space right now, and that's the Facebook Live.
Yeah, Facebook Live is another one. Yeah. So Facebook Live, and then there's even things like, Periscope. Periscope would be another thing, although that has you can capture your Periscope. Typically that goes away. Something like Snapchat, that's for your listeners, but you can download your snaps. So there's some of this live component where you might share quick tips, and they're really quick and easy. You don't have to worry about editing them. But the thing that I like actually about Blab is that it's so easy and seamless with YouTube. And I just had a YouTube thing where I just cut out a small section. It was just something that I was like, you know what, we're going to cut that little piece out because that's not going to be evergreen. It was something that was just for that day, a special deal. And I was like, you know what, I'm going to cut that out, because then if people are listening to the recording, they're going to be mad because they didn't get that special day deal. and it's very easy to edit that YouTube. So another thing that we wanted to mention too is just kind of more online meeting systems. Like, so if I have some mastermind events that are private and we meet via Zoom. So zoom.us. And I'm going to put that link in there.
Yeah, and the nice thing about Zoom is that you can have you can screen share on that. You can show people things on that. You can be on screen and screen share, all of that. It's easy to record. It's easy to get a recording of it. And then depending on how you answered those first questions, you can either set it up in a evergreen system where you have social that leads to a registration page, and then they're given the link for that page where you're putting the recording. Very easy to use like that. And the same thing for any Periscope recording or any Facebook Live recording also is that you can set that up for email capture, as an evergreen thing. So these systems that people are using for just quick, easy meetings could be used to create recorded webinars for no cost, for hardly any cost. I mean, it's just amazing how cheap it is.
Right. And it's for Zoom, it's $14.99 per month for one host and up to 50 participants. So it goes up pretty quickly. It's really, I think Zoom is geared a little bit more towards those small groups. But the cool thing about Zoom is that you can have a lot of people on the screen. You can have a lot of people on the videos, on the webcams, but you don't have to. People can just do screen shares, or they could be off screen, or you could all meet. And that's why I like them for like mastermind groups, because then you can all see each other's face and talk.
But it can be used for recorded webinar, so anything that records you can be used for a recorded webinar. I mean, that's basically it. Anything at all. And that also goes for, this new upcoming YouTube live streaming app from YouTube will be very similar to what you can do with Facebook Live and things like that. So that would be very easy to have a recording straight in YouTube and do your editing and set it all up. I think it's interesting because webinars used to mean one thing. It was a live event. You signed up for it. You either saw it live or you watched the recording, and that was it. But I think the definition of webinar has stretched around the boundaries just a little bit in the last maybe year or so.
Right.
And so now it's kind of fuzzy when someone says webinar, because it could be something that was recorded a year ago. And we know lots of people in our industry who do this. They just recycle their recorded webinars as if they are live. And and those of us who live in this space, it's real easy to spot those. Now, a straight up consumer might not know that's going on and might feel that it's live, and whoever, records those webinars, they have to be very careful not to be topical. Because, you don't want to be talking about things that happened 2 years ago in a supposedly live webinar. How do you guys feel about those stealth webinars which we didn't even put on our list?
Stealth webinar. I know, stealth webinar. We didn't. I know, I didn't put that on our list because we did. I haven't used them. But
this is like, people in our industry don't like them. But can you know what a consumer thinks?
Yeah. So Gail is saying, doesn't like them. I don't care for them either, because I feel like if you're going to say I just say it's live or it's recorded. That's my feeling. Just say it. Just say it. Whatever. It's not.
That's great. All right. So how are we doing? So do we want to bring people on?
So I have one more thing that I want to mention, because one more thing that we didn't talk about. So in video delivery, this is the other thing that we use. So we use Vimeo, and that helps you keep your videos private. It hosts the videos, and then you just embed those. So I think it's almost like $300 a month, or a year for a year of hosting. And It definitely is a great system to just host private videos. I like it a lot. And that's another way to host. And again, we record our videos, we record our webinars, we upload them to Vimeo, and then we put them on a replay page where someone can access them and watch the replay, get the slides, all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of what we do in our system.
It's very interesting. Beloved community just said Maestro conference. I'm doing it again. I remember back in the early 200s. No, so I remember when Maestro conference first came out, and it was an audio only system then. And I hadn't seen that name in a long time, but I was always so impressed with the way that they handled audio conferencing and teleconferencing and webinars, where they could put people in groups and they could all chat with themselves as if they were around a table. It was freaking awesome. And I honestly did not know that they had a webinar system. So now that it has video and screen share, I'm definitely going to check it out, because I was so impressed with their audio system. So maybe this one gets on the list at some point.
Yeah. So Zoom, I mean, I'm not sure what you mean by breakouts. Like, they have things called Zoom rooms where you're all in the same kind of room. So I'm not sure what you mean by breakouts, but it's a cool system for, I think, group calling. So I like it. I like Zoom a lot. So
yeah. So now the pricing for Maestro is up there too, and is not, I would say, built for a wide cast webinar, where you're probably going to get 400 or 500 people registered and maybe 2 people show up, because that would cost you $250 a month. So if you're only pulling in a live webinar under 25 people, it's $49 a month. So again, the pricing there is going to be, again, those original questions you ask yourself is this recorded? Is it live? How many people? All of those things are going to be important before you go pick out a system.
Yeah. So interesting. I'm not sure about if Zoom does like little breakout rooms like you're talking about, Larry, but it definitely, I think you can have multiple hosts. So that's where you might have to look into the pricing there.
Yeah, well, breakout rooms inside of Maestro is very simple. It's like, you can imagine everybody has a little button, and the host can say every third person goes into this room, and they can only hear themselves talk.
Cool.
It's very technologically cool.
That is cool.
So that's why it's good for coaching. It's also good for small networking type of webinars, teaching, training webinars like that. It's a very cool system. That's what we mean by breakout.
Awesome. All right. So cool. Well, let's open it up for the last
questions.
I guess 10 minutes now. Yeah, we have 10 minutes left. We'll open it up. You can either ask questions or jump on and share your experiences with some of the webinar systems and video content systems you've used. Would love to hear what, I know there's been a lot of chat talking about different systems, but feel free to hop on. As always, hats and wigs are encouraged, not required. Clothing is required.
And let's go ahead and answer this one question about which would you recommend if you wanted to do like a quick tip of the day recorded. So this isn't a webinar. This would just be a quick tip of the day, but you want to offer it as a recording. Wow, it's, it depends on where your audience is. If it's on Facebook, then I would definitely do Facebook Live for sure. If it's on Twitter, I would do Periscope. And if you want to do it with someone else, then I would do it with Blab.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, another thing, like, Instagram video also, although that's really short, so that would be a very quick tip of the day. I actually, what I do is a non-live tip. I tips a lot of times because I'm doing screen share, and Facebook Live doesn't have screen share at this moment. So I do a recorded screencast with Camtasia, and then I'll just upload it, and then I can upload it to wherever I want. It takes a little bit more time, but I also can, add a front end or back end, on where people can find me more. And I can just upload it to all different sites too, and they can live in different places. So that's kind of the nice thing about doing a recorded video and uploading it for a quick tip.
That's a great idea. And you can do that on YouTube also.
Yeah.
So that's good.
Yeah. So Lisa's asking, if I need to hire someone to handle the tech portion of my webinar, would this be a virtual assistant, web developer? Not sure what I should be looking for. There's actually a lot of people who will run webinars for you. I know, that's something that Social Media Examiner has for their webinar summits. They have Jessamine, who does all of their webinar stuff from beginning to end, and has, they have a back end team for that. That might be a little overkill, but there's plenty of kind of virtual assistants that specialize in that. Now I'm trying to think of, even in our group, Phyllis, there was someone who was talking about how they specialize in that, and I can't think of it.
There. I can't remember either, but we need a quick list of course, we have 1,000 students, so it would be a little hard to remember everybody. But the thing is that the other thing about that is, one of the things I've always said about if you're going to run webinars and you're a solo entrepreneur is to have somebody there for tech, and also to cue you for answering questions, and also to keep a timer on for you, and just to be there for you. Because when you go to do your webinar, even if it is just that short half-an-hour webinar like I do, you really need to have somebody there so that you can focus on the webinar and give fabulous content. Because there's nothing worse in a webinar than having the host saying, wait a minute, I know there was a question here somewhere, and then there's a lot of dead space, and then it's just not very professional. So you try to always have somebody there tech-wise for you. But I have to say, I have broken that rule a couple of times, I will admit.
Yeah, me too.
I know.
Me too. But it also is helpful, especially when you have a big webinar, because there might be people who are like, I'm having trouble finding the link, and they want to get on, and you're not, you're getting onto the webinar. You need to have someone else managing your email. And that's another reason I like GoToWebinar, is because it sends out you can schedule the automated emails to go out. And I have automated emails in GoToWebinar that go out a day before to remind people, and an hour before. And it includes the link where they just have to click and get in.
Yeah.
But still,
it's the same.
Who don't get them sometimes.
Yeah, Webinar does that. Webinar Jam does that. Easy Webinar does that. And you can, that's again, that question at the very beginning, how hands-on do you want to be? Because you can recreate that inside your own email system, but it's just a lot of DIY.
Right. That's true. That's true. So it's challenging. Some of these systems are expensive. Sometimes there are monthly fees. And if they are like a monthly fee, or if you've paid for a whole year of service, then you want to make sure that you're using the webinars regularly. And so maybe that's another question, qualifying question to put into our system, is how often are you going to be hosting webinars? Yep. Because if you're not going to be hosting them that often, you might consider something that is just a monthly system where you can pay for that month and then get out from that month.
Right. If you only do one webinar a quarter, then you should think about really working the system a little bit and not having to pay those monthlies. Yeah. There are systems though, if you cancel them, all those pages you might have set up as evergreen and social linking to disappear. So you definitely want to think all of that through.
Yeah,
questions. Do we have any questions?
Yeah.
Give us questions.
We have about 5 minutes left. Welcome if you're just joining us. We've had a lot of good talk about all the things that go into planning for what type of webinar system, video system you might have. We've talked, and you can scroll through the live chat if you're just joining us. If you're listening to the recording, I'll have all this documented.
That was your radio. I like your radio voice.
Documented.
That's so great. This is a lot of fun. We're actually going to get together live soon, and that's always a lot of fun. And seeing each other. I mean, we talk and see each other every day, but occasionally we are in the same room at the same time.
We could clink glasses and say cheers.
That's great.
So Angela's asking, how do you compare Webinar Jam versus GoToMeeting? Which ones have pay as you go? So Webinar Jam is a yearly fee, so that is something to consider. But GoToMeeting, like GoToMeeting, GoToWebinar, has some different options. So if you just need a small group, GoToMeeting would be the good option for that. I think it's 15 people for what was that? 15 people, I think, for $49. Was that? They just changed their pricing. Oop, I'm looking at Zoom.
And there's this cool thing that still I think is in play here is that if you type Q, / then a Q, then your question, we can actually pull it up here on screen with us, just in case you're new to Blab and don't know how to do it.
So GoToMeeting, and I feel like GoToMeeting and Webinar Jam have a lot of similar features if you're looking for feature comparisons. So they do a lot of the same things. GoToWebinar is $89 for up to 100 attendees per month. So that's a monthly fee. So if you were going to just get in, get out, it would be $89. But, again, you have to make sure that this is worth it for you. So if you're thinking about, okay, I'm going to get 100 people on my list as a promotion, $89 for the month, that's if you get 100 attendees, you have to factor that cost in for for getting them to opt in. So that's actually not bad if you're getting people $1 per lead or whatever that might be, but you want to make sure then you're recouping your cost on the other side. But if you're doing like a hosted webinar course, then that might be something else too. You might be doing a 3-week course. You're using GoToWebinar to host it, and then have that live course for those people. So again, consider if you're doing live webinars versus the hosted content web videos, pre-recorded videos. Lots of different options.
Yes, there's so many options. Do you have the names of a couple of one-off providers? Like you can only use it for a month and then you're done with it. A lot of them have trials. So that's something that you can look into, and you can try them all out that way if you want to. And just schedule your trials for when you need to do your webinars. But like I said, after the trial's over, if they're hosting anything for you, then all that disappears. So you would definitely need to make sure it's a system that you go. I have a hard stop in 30 seconds. So,
so I'm going to just answer, Angela's question. Zoom webinars, I've just used them for the meetings. So that's a little bit different, but similar concept, I think, for hosting. So.
And also, who else has a very interesting thing, and we didn't even have it on the list, and this is the one thing I was going to remember, is that join.me.
We forgot about that one.
Join.me is a great way to create a recorded webinar that is very awesome, and that's the one that has you in the little circle if you want to be on screen also with what you're screen sharing. So it's a really fun way to present that way.
Yeah. So another option there. So, and then that one's only $25 a month, I think, somewhere in there.
Yeah, it's very inexpensive.
So awesome, everyone. Thank you guys for joining us. We meet every Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern for 45 minutes, and we wear hats and wigs, have a little fun on our Friday afternoon, and join us next week for another amazing installment, which we will put up soon, which we have so many pieces of ideas, couldn't choose which one was next. So we will see you guys next week, and this recording will be up soon.
Bye-bye, everybody.